Today's guest is a three-time All-Star and former Rookie of the Year. He was an 18-year big leaguer, and now you might know him as a color commentator for ESPN. Today, we catch up with former Cub Rick Sutcliffe. So you had a great long playing career. Did you ever, while you were playing, think about what was going to happen when you were done, or what you wanted to do when you were done?
No. You know, Andrew, I think everybody hopes to play forever. You really don't ever think about it ending. And I don't know that my playing career actually ended when I had it planned. If you remember, in 1994, the players went on strike. I was a part of every work stoppage that they ever had in baseball leading up to that. I believed in every one of them leading up to that.
Which was 94, and then prior was?
81, back in 75 or 6, something like that. There were a lot of breaks in between that were important as far as free agency and arbitration and giving, like a minor league guy who, say, was stuck behind Ryne Sandberg at second base in the Cub system, he needs to eventually to go somewhere else where he can play. So anyway, I did not. But when the players went on strike in 94, I was really upset with the Players Association, with a lot of my contemporaries. And I had a 2-year deal with the Texas Rangers to play in 95 and 96, and I walked away from it. When spring training didn't start on time in 95, that's when I decided to be a full-time dad.
You started broadcasting, we were just talking about this a little bit before, 98? I
think so.
With San Diego.
Yeah.
And you've been with ESPN since then as well.
I have been,
right?
Yeah. Kind of a funny story, Andrew, with that. I wanted to give something back to baseball, and I took 95 off, 96. I wanted to be the rookie league pitching coach for the Chicago Cubs. I was told by the front office that job wasn't available. Kind of shocked or whatever, but I had gotten an offer to be the big league pitching coach for the San Diego Padres. Well, I didn't want to do anything full time, but they offered me the job in Idaho Falls, Idaho. And I loaded my wife and daughter and our horses and our dogs, and we drove to Idaho Falls. And I had so much fun up there in 96 that I went back again in 97. It's the short season. It's only a couple of months. Yeah. Beautiful weather, beautiful part of the country. We enjoyed it. And I don't know that I ever had more fun with a uniform on than I did then, knowing that most of those guys aren't going to even play another year.
Yeah.
But knowing I had an opportunity to change their lives and maybe redirect them in the direction that their lives were probably going to go. And that's when the broadcasting thing started. The Padres did a weekend series in Monterrey, Mexico. You might remember that. Fernando Valenzuela pitched. I mean, it was a big deal.
Okay.
For some reason, they decided they wanted to make it big, and they thought that I would do that. So they forced me to broadcast. There was no way in the world I wanted to do that. But by doing that, ESPN saw it. And later on in 97, that winter, ESPN asked me to do a division series on radio. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to do it. But again, they said, we need the exposure. I was blessed to start my broadcasting career with a Hall of Famer named Ernie Harwell, who we'll all remember in Detroit. Maybe the nicest human being I ever met in my life. And I thought, wow, that was actually fun. And I didn't expect that broadcasting would be that.
Did you not enjoy it at first? Is that why you didn't really want to do it, or was it just something else?
Andrew, I don't like to do anything that I don't feel prepared to do. Mm-hmm. And I had no background of that. I barely made it through high school. You know, I had no training. I was the guy that y'all fixing to wash your clothes later on. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was a lot of my language that I thought wouldn't go over very well, but come to find out, ESPN embraced that. They told me it was not the Washington Nationals, it was Washington. So that was one thing they asked me to clean up a little bit. But, you know, it started out as an opportunity to stay connected to the game that I love. But with ESPN, it eventually led into loving the people that I worked with. And a lot of those guys, David Ross, John Sciambi, Chris Berman, a lot of those guys have become my best friends.
Talk a little bit about David Ross, working with him. We talked a minute ago. I think he does a phenomenal job. He tipped his cap to you to say how comfortable you made him feel as he transitioned to the booth. When you're doing a game, and my family is huge fans of yours on the air, you seem like you're enjoying yourself. That comes through so much. I mean, you're so comfortable. I mean, it's so good.
It means a lot that you say that. But if you actually took a close look at me, when that light comes on for the open, you don't want to shake my hands because they're sweaty. And I probably got a little pit going on underneath me there. I get that over with, and then you're off and running because it's just basically sitting there talking baseball with a couple of guys that you like. Love working, love everything about David Ross. He wrote the book on teammate. There's never been a better teammate than him. But I felt like when he came into the booth, it was my job, as it was when I worked with Tony Gwynn, when I worked with Aaron Boone, Mike Piazza. It's my job to kind of maybe help them condense what they're trying to say and prepare for, to maybe help them with some of the mistakes that I made. My favorite David Ross story of all, we're in Boston, and I don't know what he had to eat or drink that day, but we go into extra innings, and he gets up in the top of the tent to go pee for the 4th time. And when he comes back, we're on the air, and you know how it is. John Chamey's talking. He sneaks into his chair. He sits down. He real quietly grabs the headset and puts it on. Well, I raised my finger to John Chamey that I got something to say, and I go, John, that was a great statement. I go, David, what do you think? And he, of course, had no idea and he lights up bright red, and he looks at me and he goes, on camera, he goes, I was in the bathroom. And we're laughing. I go, the 4th time, and he goes, I didn't know I was working with 2 camels. And I'm telling you, it went viral on Twitter and SportsCenter. Everybody played that back and forth. And I think when people watch a game, along with hoping the game's good, I think, they also look for some entertainment. And that was the night we were able to provide some of that.
Well, you work with John Chamey a lot on ESPN, and you guys have a great chemistry. I mean, that takes time to build. That doesn't just happen, does it?
You're exactly right. I mean, there's a trust there, where a guy can say some things that maybe another guy couldn't, because there's a love there. And right off the bat, I felt that with Boog. It was really interesting when we started working. You have your go-to guys. You have your players that and that will give you information, that trust you. You have other coaches that maybe you played with or against. And it was really cool that my go-to guys were the same guys that John Chamey was going to. We have a lot of fun. We tease each other. He was talking about IQs my first year, and he said, you know what? He says, the difference between you and me is like that of an elephant and an ant. He goes, if we got in an IQ contest or whatever, he said, you'd be lucky to get a ribbon for participation. He said that on the air. And I mean, he was probably right, but not everybody could get away with that.
Yeah.
But I think maybe if people listen to us for a little bit longer than they might somebody else, I think it's that fact that, maybe if you and I were sitting at home watching the game, we hope to come across as maybe doing the same thing we'd be doing.
And it does. You said a little while ago Harry Carey told you that you'd get into broadcasting at some point.
He did.
You didn't believe him?
He did. I did not believe him. He was interviewing me in 1994, my last year, in a pregame thing. And he goes, I don't know how much longer you're going to play, but he goes, you're going to be a terrific broadcaster. And I just laughed at him like, Harry, that's the last thing in the world I would ever do. And, I think part of the reason I was hesitant to that was, from time to time, the media would take a cheap shot at you that really wasn't true. And it would kind of bother you a little bit, and you'd kind of look at the person a little different. And I didn't want to be looked at as that. And, to begin with, there were some people that tried to get me to be more critical. I will criticize you if you embarrass yourself. If you disrespect the game, I'm going to hammer you. And I've had some conflicts where guys wanted to talk about things. For the most part, I'm always available.
Yeah.
I will be in both clubhouses before the game. If there's anything I've done or said, I'm available to talk it out. But there's so many good stories in the game that, as you know, if you prepare yourself, if you're fully prepared to maybe do 18 innings of baseball, there's plenty of good stories that you can tell without being critical of anybody.
That's true. That's true. And you're very fair. I mean, sometimes sometimes you're going to say something that's true and fair, and some people might not. They might take offense to it, might not like to hear it, but it's true.
There's a guy that hit a home run. We were down in Texas, and the score was 11-1. The Rangers were losing, and the guy for Texas, I can't even think of his name, hit a home run. And, I mean, he stood there and watched it. It's 11-2. It's in the 8th inning. I lost my mind. I mean, I said, what are you doing? Get going. And as he went around second, he did the little trot and like whatever. And I go, he thinks he's Kirk Gibson now.
Yeah.
That was a walk-off in the World Series.
Yeah.
It's 11-2.
Yeah.
I mean, I lost my mind. And, of course, SportsCenter, they're going to start off with, I mean, that was the first thing they hit with. Everybody was there. And people said the guy wanted to fight me and all of that, and it wasn't a good decision for him. It didn't go well for him.
My college roommate and I kind of started. I went to a small Division III college. We kind of started the sports broadcasting department there after we quit playing. And we were doing a football game once at school. I forget who they were playing. They were not a good program. I think they were 1-9 or 1-10. It was like 40-3 at the half. So you can only paint so swell of a picture if it's 40-3. And after that game, we got called in the athletic director's office that we needed to have a more positive spin on things. I said, well, if it's a little closer than 40-3 at half, maybe we'll give you something better to work with. But what am I supposed to do?
Let's work together on this.
Right.
It's funny, Andrew, you talk about that, and I think really the thing that might have got me started at ESPN was when I retired. In 1995 or 6, I don't remember which year it was, a lot of my friends in Kansas City wanted to come up for opening day at Wrigley, and they wanted to sit in the bleachers. Well, Ryan Sandberg had come out of retirement to come back and play. So we're at the game, we're having a great time, and afterwards we go over to Murphy's Bleacher Bar, and Bill Murray's there, and all of our buddies were up there having a great time, and somebody said, hey, on SportsCenter, they're talking about Wrigley Field and the Cubs. So we all come running in from the patio and everything, we're watching it. And Dan Patrick goes, yeah, we're here at Wrigley Field, and 2 former Cubs on opening day, 2 former Chicago Cub greats returned to Chicago. And they show Rhino getting like a base hit. Dan Patrick showed me in the bleachers with a beer about that, chugging the beer. And I'm telling you, everybody in the world called me, everybody in the world saw that. But, I think I knew Dan Patrick. We were friends, and I think him, I don't know, maybe showing that side of me of being just a fan more than anything else. I think that might have been part of the reason ESPN gave me a call a couple of years later.
That's cool. What's it mean for you after all these years? I mean, you're a legend here in Chicago.
Wow. Well, that's nice.
I mean, to come back and be embraced by all of these Cubs fans at a weekend like this every year. I mean, to walk across that stage last night at opening ceremonies, I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. And Andrew, I've got to give John McDonough all the credit in the world for that, for making that connection between the player and the fan and lengthening the baseball season to, the calendar year. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget, I think it was the winter of it, 1986, John's idea was to have a Cub fan convention. Well, I wasn't going to leave my home in the middle of January. I mean, I'm with my family. I'm gone enough. Rhino wasn't going to leave his house in the weather in Arizona. John McDonough called me, and we weren't going. We weren't going to go to the convention, and John had said that they hadn't even sold a ticket, hardly. I mean, nobody was going to come.
Yeah.
A lot of organizations and other sports had tried it, and it never worked. John said, I need a big favor. And I would say, he said, I need you to come to the convention. And I finally talked me into it. I said, I'll do it. And he goes, now I need you to talk Rhino into coming. And I'm like, Rhino, you're not going to talk Rhino into doing that. And I finally decided, okay, so I called Rhino and I go, Rhino, I'm telling you, we're going to go to the convention. And he goes, no, I said, Rhino, I didn't ask you. I'm telling you, we ride to the park every day, okay? You want to ride, you're going to come. Well, anyway, Rhino agreed to come, and he was 90% of it. But the next day, the convention sold out.
Wow.
And, I didn't realize what John McDonough's vision was. I didn't realize, I mean, I come back every year. It's so important to have that connection, to stay connected to the fans and the organization that gave me an opportunity to stay in the game that I love.
That's awesome. It's probably not the same as when you were playing, but you're around the game in the booth, and you're at camp with the Cubs in spring training, no?
Yeah.
Being around the guys and coaching, and I mean, that's a cool role.
That's a great statement right there you made. And I'll tell you something that happened just this past spring. 7 years ago when Theo took over, he called me and he asked me to come back. And I was thrilled to do it. I took a look at the minor league system, all the pitchers that were down there. And when I told him there might be 2 or 3 that could help us, I don't think even he realized it was that bad when he took over.
Yeah.
But obviously he dug in and did the things that he did in Boston and got everything turned around here. But just this past spring, I was walking out on the field. I was one of the first guys to the ballpark. And I'm out on the grass getting ready to go in the dugout, and I just hit my knees, man. I just hit my knees, and I could not have been more thankful to God for giving me an opportunity to still put that uniform on. And so I'm leaning against the batting cage and with Theo and Joe Madden, and they're thanking me for being there. And I had spoke to the minor league guys earlier that day, and thanks for this and that. And I go, let me ask you something. You're thanking me. What if I put on eBay the opportunity to do what I'm getting the opportunity to do today, okay? I drive in and I park in the player's lot. You know, my locker's right next to Ryan Sandberg and Billy Williams. I get dressed in that uniform. I go have breakfast with Anthony Rizzo and Chris Bryant. I go out in the field and I'm leaning on the batting cage next to Joe Madden and Theo Epstein. And now I'm going to get to ride on the team bus to the game. I'm going to get to sit in the dugout, get to drink a beer after the game.
Yeah.
What would that go for on eBay? Whew. And they all just started laughing like, you know, you should be paying us. and obviously I'd be happy to do that. But it's just an opportunity for, I mean, the Cubs and Harry Carey created me. Harry Carey's the one that tagged me with the Red Baron. I don't care what I'd done leading up to that. I won a Rookie of the Year. I won an ERA title. I won 18 games and an All-Star. I might get 5 fan letters a week. I was getting like 150 a day when Harry Carey all of a sudden gave you a nickname and started talking about how he liked you. The Cubs created anything. The Cubs are the reason ESPN hired me. Without what happened in Chicago and the popularity of that team, I never would have gotten a job in baseball after baseball.
When you're in camp with the Cubs, and May said you're working with minor league players, and you said even when you started doing so after you retired with San Diego, giving back, it just makes you feel good. When Rick Sutcliffe comes up to a young pitcher and talks, they listen. I mean, that's
you know, the back of my bubblegum card usually gets me in the door, but you better have something to say once you get there. And I really think that, you know, those 2 years in rookie ball where I'm basically given a piece of clay and you're supposed to help form that, you know. And, you know, you've got to let a guy fail first. I mean, if they continue to dominate, you know, let the freaks freak. Don't change anything, even though you don't. You know, I was a rapper, and the Dodgers tried to change me every year in the minor leagues, and they finally just gave up, and I wasn't able to quit that. So let the freaks freak, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
My role really is Andrew Moore from the neck up. You know, when Theo came over here, these guys are so smart, and they have machines and they have data that nobody else has. And, you know, when you put the pitcher in the lab and they break down his mechanics and everything, I let other people do that. I'm more about confidence. I'm more about what were you thinking. I was told by my very first big league pitching coach, Red Adams, there's no such thing as the wrong pitch. What was your thought process on that pitch? Were you going to throw an 0-2 breaking ball? Are you just going to throw it to get it over? Are you going to try to get him to chase? You're going to try to hit a better spot? And I think that helps free people up to reinforce what a lot of the minor league coaches are telling these guys. Sometimes I just come down, man, I said, you're going to be in the big leagues in a hurry. Well, I remember one time Don Drysdale told me that, and it went a long ways. I didn't actually ever believe I would make it to the big leagues until he told me that day. And it wasn't, I don't know, 4 months later after my AA season that I got that call to come to Dodger Stadium.
I love what you said. The mental side of sports has always been so interesting to me. And baseball is such a mental game, I feel. I mean, any sport competitively. But to be in the right mindset, goes so far compared to, I mean, you had the physical skill set. You know, you knew what you were capable of. But upstairs for the grind of a season like that, I mean, that's to rely on a guy like you who played 18 years. I mean, that means so much to a younger player coming up, I would think.
Such a great point you make there. And the thing I think of is something that I've talked with Ryan Sandberg a lot about. Why is he in Cooperstown and I'm not? Well, you hear me say on the air all the time that for me, he taught me that. Cal Ripken taught me that. The best ability is availability. You want that guy like Rhino that 10, 12 years out of his career is going to play in 150 games. Mm-hmm. You want that guy on the mound that's going to start 30 to 35 games every year. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of those years, but I didn't have a complete career of that. You know, staying healthy is a big part of it. We both played ball, and we both saw guys a lot more talented than us, but for one reason or another, they broke down. The only difference between me and you and anybody else out there listening is this thing right here.
Yeah.
There's people out there that love baseball more than me. They were in better shape than me, but for some reason, God gave me a right arm that for 18 years in the big leagues was able to, most of the time, go out there and take his turn.
I was just talking to a buddy of mine last night that I played with in high school, and he went and played beyond, but never made it. And he still, to this day, it frustrates him because he was a hell of a good player. I mean, he was probably the best player I ever was on the field with. And other friends of ours did make it to pro ball, maybe not all the way up. And he kind of still said, I look at him and say, I'm happy for him, but why them and not what happened? You know what I mean? Not me personally. I was never good enough, and I knew that, but him. that's tough.
Well, you know what I think of. Let me see your right hand.
Yeah, I don't even deserve this.
What I think of is no, you do. We all do. I've got the same ring. But what I think of when I see that and being so blessed, I'll never forget when we won in '84. Mm-hmm. I pitched the clincher in Pittsburgh. We come back home. There's 100,000 people at the airport. The next day we walk into the clubhouse, and Billy Williams and Ernie Banks and Fergie Jenkins and all of these guys were in the clubhouse. And this guy came up to me and he grabbed me by the shirt. And I mean, he had a good grip on me. I'm like, what the? Who? I didn't even know who it was. And with tears in his eyes, he goes, I'll never be able to thank you. But he goes, what you've done. We got to the playoffs for the first time in 39 years or something like that. It was Ron Santo. And he goes, you did something for these fans that we couldn't get done. And I'll never be able to repay you for that. And with tears in his eyes, he goes, I just want to thank you. That ring right there, I was able to do the same thing to Theo Epstein. Mm-hmm. You did what we weren't able to do. These fans deserve to celebrate a World Series championship. They had for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. And Theo Epstein and the guys that he brought over, Dallas Green, when he came over here, he brought Rhino, he brought Sarge, Bobby Denier, Keith Moreland, Eckersley on down the line, myself. Yeah, he put together a team that had an opportunity to win it all. We didn't get it done. There's such a fine line. You see it every year on whether you win or whether you don't. The Cubs last year, whether they get into the playoffs or not. Come on, man. I mean, you score one run, you win one game or whatever. Who knows? You might win it all. But that's the great part of, that's a great unknown about baseball, and I think what makes any sport so terrific to be a part of.
When you got that ring, you opened that box, after everything you gave to this organization, what was going, I mean, what did you feel?
I had no idea. But Theo wanted me to come up for something that went on during the winter. I remember it might have been his charity event. And the next thing I know, I'm walking into a room with Kerry Wood and Eddie Vedder. And I'm like, wow, it's worth the trip just, being next to these two guys, And all of a sudden, he made a big presentation out of it. I want to thank you guys for all that you've given and all of the help that you've been. In a small, small way, Theo Epstein telling me that I was a part of winning a World Series championship, I can't tell you what that meant to me.
You've got a great Twitter handle, which is fun to follow. You have, obviously, your broadcast career, but one of your jobs is being a grandpa.
Yeah.
I always tease my wife, our parents like our daughter much more than they like us. That's fun for you.
It's the greatest thing in my life that has ever happened. Ryder's 6 years old right now, and for my 60th birthday a couple of years ago, people said, what are you going to do? I'm going to Legoland with Ryder. I mean, if you guys want to join us, that's where we're going to be. You can go back and look at a tape from the World Series. Nike and Apple put together a big, I don't know, it was a 3-mile run or something like that, and there's 1,000 people out there. And they gave us some Nike stuff and an Apple Watch, and they put Rhino and I up on stage. And we're up there talking and everything, and we're making fun of each other. And all of a sudden, I see my daughter and son-in-law and my grandson Ryder running around. Well, the Cubs were great. They made a uniform for Ryder with his name on it and number 40 on the back,
cool.
Which was, of course, my number. Well, Ryder's looking at me. He was like 4 at the time, and he's like, Gramps, I'm here. I'm your guy. So I get off the stage, and right during the event, I walk down, I pick Ryder up, and I bring him up here, and he's in my arm. We got the deal, and I go, Ryder, say hello to everybody. In his little bitty voice, he goes, hello, everybody. And I go, hey, Chicago, what do you say? And Ryder sings, Cubs are going, oh, win today. And I mean, the roar was like it was when Rhino hit that home run off of Bruce Sutter in '84. I mean, the crowd went crazy, and for a kid that age to have known that, I just think it tells you how tight that my grandson and I are.
Is he playing ball, Little League now?
You know what? It was just 3 days ago. I was blessed to go to his first Little League practice, and they were shocked. He's playing with older kids, but we've been playing since he was 2. He can hit. He doesn't really like fielding or throwing a whole lot, but he likes swinging the bat right now.
Is it T-ball or is it coach pitch?
It's going to be machine pitch.
Machine pitch.
Yeah, I'm not encouraging him to play a lot, to do a lot. We play golf, we play football, we play soccer, we play basketball. I think that's a big thing in society today that needs to change. There's coaches that are telling kids when they're a freshman in high school that you need to get rid of everything else. This is the only sport you should play. Well, Andrew, I'll tell you, I'll be real honest with you. When my senior year was over with, the last day of school, if you had asked me what I was going to do, I was going to play quarterback at the University of Missouri. Okay. That's what I was going to do. What if that doesn't work? I'm going to play basketball at Kansas University. They've offered me a scholarship to go down there and do that. What if that doesn't work? Well, I guess maybe I'll play baseball. You know, I didn't know. I didn't know that the Dodgers were going to draft me in the first round. I didn't know that they were going to offer me a huge bonus that blew my grandpa. I was raised by my grandparents. It blew all of us away. I still wanted to go play football until they said they would pay for my college and they would pay for my younger brother and sister's college. I didn't really have a choice. My dream of playing college football, or maybe beyond that, was over with. And I don't know that I ever would have seen the field in football anyway. It was just, I think, God guiding me in that direction to be a part of baseball.
You still get your baseball fix being in the booth? I know it's different than playing, but
I think you'll understand this. Your career ended. All of our careers do. Nothing will ever come close to playing. It just bothers me a lot when I watch the starting pitcher walk out there to the mound and dig that little toe hold. I can do that. I could still dig that toe. I couldn't go do anything after that. But I miss that. I miss that a lot. You know, I think that's why I wanted to coach, because even when I was in rookie ball for those 2 years, you know, after a big win, it's such a great feeling. And knowing that maybe you were a little part of it in some way, maybe you called some pitches or did something, I miss that a lot. You know, but broadcasting has given me an opportunity, first of all, to be pretty much a full-time dad and definitely a full-time grandpa. And for that, I'll always be grateful.
You guys cover different teams every week. You're not following one club all year with ESPN. Obviously, you're very in tune with the league, but that's tough. I mean, your prep work, and you were talking about prep work earlier, you got different clubs every game potentially. How does that go into how you prepare for a game?
You know, it is a lot of preparing, but I think the exciting part about it is that every week, as you know, whether it be Sunday night, Monday, or Wednesday with ESPN, they do the best they can to pick the best game. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of times where, you know, we're not going up there with two teams that are going to lose 100 games that year. There are a lot of great stories to be told about that. And I love the game. I can't believe that they pay me. You know where our seats are. I know where your seat is. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to believe we're getting paid to have that location to watch a game and maybe talk about it a little bit. Broadcasting works so much better for me than what coaching or managing would have done. And I still get calls. I get people wanting me to do something or interview for this or that. But for me, that window is closed, and it gives me an opportunity to be the best grandpa that I can be.
Speaking of watching a game, what's it like watching a Cubs game with Theo in his box? What's the atmosphere like?
Well, a lot of it
depends on the day,
on the outcome.
Yeah.
He's competitive. He might be as competitive as anybody that I've ever known. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in there. The wheels are always turning. Yeah, they're watching the game, and obviously it's the priority to win that game, but there's a lot of other things that go into what might help them the next day.
You're back in Chicago for a weekend like this or for a game. Where's must stop? Dinner spot, drink before dinner, afterwards, where you like to hit, where you have to go?
There's three.
Yeah.
There's three. I'm going to go to Murphy's Bleacher Bar every single time that I'm in Chicago. Jim Murphy, who owned Murphy's and all of that, former Chicago cop who's passed away, he basically has given me the apartment above Murphy's. So the parties there have been absolutely unreal, and you're invited. I'm telling you, it's after every game that I'm here, it's amazing. It's a who's who of who's ever been there. Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, Dennis Rodman, Vedder, Huey Lewis. I mean, they've all been there. Murphy's is a definite stop. I'm always going to have dinner at Chicago Cut. And I think the one thing that most people don't know, I owe Harry Carey so much. Harry Carey many times said that I was his favorite all-time player. When Harry did a big benefit in Las Vegas, Jack Buck was the MC, Willie Mays, Stan Musial, all these great comedians were there. I was the only active player that Harry asked to speak. And since we lost Harry, there's never been a time where I've been in Chicago where I don't go into a Harry Carey's, there's lots of them now, and have a Budweiser.
That's awesome.
Just kind of my way of saying thanks and reconnect. And I always walk out with a smile because I'm thinking about something that I might have done or said, or, you know, at one point where I had been with Harry.
That's awesome. I was watching on the Golf Channel, I think yesterday, John Lester was playing with the LPGA in the Pro-Am, You play competitive tournaments like that at all, golf-wise?
I did.
Yeah.
I did a lot of those early. I do a lot of charity events now. I love golf. But again, you know, when you play in a tournament like that, most of the time, you know, Bill Murray's invited me to Pebble Beach a lot of that time. The Lake Tahoe thing, Barkley,
Yep.
They've always tried to get me up there. But you're talking about 4 or 5, sometimes a full week of time put into that, especially Pebble Beach. I just don't have that time. You know, I'm not interested in playing golf 6 straight days, you know, unless, of course, I'm playing with Ryder. I mean, I have no problem doing that.
Competitive golf is a different animal, too. I mean, I know you compete at the highest level in baseball, but competitive golf, you are on an island by yourself.
You know, you're so true, and you're absolutely correct in what you say there. And I think back when I was playing, American Airlines had a golf tournament where they paired a football player and a baseball player together with executives. And if you were the best, football and baseball player the first day, you played with the worst executives. So they tried to balance it out. And I'll never forget the first year that I'm there. I'm playing. Lynn Dickey. I'm playing with quarterback Lynn Dickey, who's a great golfer. And you have to use 4 tee shots of everybody's shot. And on the final day, we're leading. And on the last hole, it's on a par 3. I was the only one that had to hit a tee ball. And I laid the sod over and hit it in the water. And we ended up losing by 1 shot. And I thought, you know what, that's never going to happen again.
Yeah.
I never got nervous like that in baseball, but it got me. I mean, it got me to that moment or whatever. Well, the following year I came back with Eddie Payton, Walter's brother, who was another good golfer, and we won the whole thing. But you're exactly right. There's a competitiveness to that, and there's a confidence that you can only have if you've done a lot of it. And I had not played a lot of golf going into that first tournament, but you're right. When you look at that leaderboard and you see your name, it's a different experience than maybe being at Yankee Stadium and they're booing you. That's not a problem at all. But grabbing that club and being able to find a fairway or a green, that can be difficult.
It's tough. Pitchers and catchers know their way around a golf course, I've come to find out. Why is that?
You know, I'm not that guy.
No.
And Greg Maddox will be the guy to tell you that I had a pretty good baseball swing. You might have heard of a guy named Tom Seaver. I happened to hit a home run off him. Hit a couple, hit one in the playoffs. I could hit a little bit. I have probably, next to Charles Barkley, probably the worst golf swing you've ever. But I mean, my legal name is Rick Sutcliffe. I mean, I can get it in the hole. It's just sometimes it takes me a little bit too long to get to the green.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it. You know, golf to me is nothing more than a couple of hours outdoors with a couple of people I like. If you look at it in any other way than that, I think you're making a mistake.
Yeah.
Particularly when, you know, it's not my career. It's not what I do. It's not what I ever needed to do.
That's cool. Rick, thank you for doing this. It's been a pleasure.
All right.
We look forward to seeing you at the park this year.
Yeah, sounds great.
To see more of my interviews with former Cubs, be sure to subscribe to our Cubs YouTube page.